Mayday, mayday, here. 72, we have smoke in the cabin.
72, track, pilot maintain.
Hello and good evening to all of you. Welcome to Galactic Terrors for October 2024, the online reading series that scours the known universe for scary stories, strange tales, weird horror, and all sorts of literary oddities from the most imaginative authors writing in a variety of fascinating genres. Tonight we have three terrific authors joining us: DEBRA EVERY, VALERIE B. Williams, and a special session with LOU RERA, who many of you know is the video wizard who makes Galactic Terrors look so good and helps us out with all our video intros and outros. And Lou, who is a fantastic author as well, is going to give us kind of a behind-the-scenes peek tonight into some of what he does. So we're shaking things up a little bit for October, a special Halloween treat.
Right, and the more we shake it up, the more candy corn falls out. So, yeah. That's cool.
Yes. Are you a candy corn yay or nay, Carol?
I'm a nay. I think if you eat too much candy corn, you turn into a wax candle. That's my opinion. But
fair enough.
Some people like it. That's okay. How about you, Jim?
Intellectually, I'm a nay, but I still eat plenty of candy corn every Halloween season.
That's fair. Why not?
Yeah, it's hard to resist the bright colors and all the sugary sweetness.
Mm-hmm. I actually saw a picture the other day. If you take candy corn and you set it up in a ring and you can stack it, it actually makes an ear of corn. I was like this many years old when I found that out. So yeah.
I have a new activity to do after I carve my jack-o'-lantern this year.
That sounds fair. Actually, I think the better thing to do is just put a little bit of peanut butter on a pumpkin, put it out, and let the squirrels create your jack-o'-lantern for you. It's really creepy looking.
Yes, I've seen that. Pictures of that. Very creepy. Yeah. We usually put ours out after Halloween and let the squirrels have at them, and they tend to look even creepier.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think we've inadvertently set somebody off on the candy corn trail. Sorry, Vaughn.
All right, Vaughn.
Candy corn. Now I have to have some.
The question is, do you have any at home yet, or are you running to the store while you're listening? Yeah.
Exactly.
Nick says candy corn is the circus peanuts of Halloween season. Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know. I don't know which is worse, circus peanuts or candy corn.
Yes.
But in any case, I'm a little old for trick-or-treating these days, so I don't have to worry about it so much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's
but this is officially the spooky season. Our horror writers' favorite time of year. I'm sure all of us are super busy with writing scary stories, doing events and appearances, watching horror movies. I've seen a ton of people on social media doing their 31 days of October horror movie lists and things like that. The horror movie and Halloween memes are flowing. So it's a great time of year.
Right, because as Kevin Wetmore dubbed us at StokerCon a few years ago, we are the Halloween people. Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah. So, and then the last final announcement on that, it's just 3 weeks, 21 days until Halloween. In case anybody, was not sure, I just wanted to let you know.
I thought it was coming up. Yeah. Less than a month. Beautiful.
Right. Yeah. Excellent. There's a bunch of other events that are going on this time of year as well. We're here in the New York City area, and for those of you who are local, there's a bunch of conventions that are going on because this is the season. World Fantasy Con 2024 is in Niagara Falls, New York, starting the middle of next week. And then in the New York City and Philadelphia area, PhilCon is coming up November 22 through 24. So that's very cool. But there's one other really cool spooky event in New York City, specifically Halloween related. And I got to go to it courtesy of Randy Dawn, who interviews a lot of these people. Jimmy Fallon does this really cool thing. He's just started this year called Tonightmares. And it's an all new haunted house in the basement of 30 Rock, where, you know, the building where they film all these things. And you go through this tour. They take a small group of people through at a time. And yeah, there's a few things that jump out at you and a few things that go bump in the dark. And, you know, it was pretty fun. So
that's really cool.
Yeah. I thought it was neat. Yeah.
Did they get you with a jump scare here or there?
No, but that's okay. You know, I think, you know, horror writers, maybe we don't jump that much. So yeah.
Well, haunted houses are a lot of fun. One of these days I'll have to tell the Galactic Terror folks about my my haunted house incident from years ago.
Oh no. Oh, we're going to hold you to that one, Jim.
Yes, too long a story for right now. I think it's about time for us to maybe start introducing our readers. What do you think, Carol?
I think that would be really cool. Yeah.
Awesome.
So.
All right. So our first reader tonight is DEBRA EVERY. DEBRA writes horror, thrillers, and stories that make the heart beat fast. Her psychological horror debut, Deena Undone, has won multiple awards, most notably an American Fiction Award for Best Horror of 2024, a Storytrade Book Award for Best Horror, and 2 Independent Author Awards, one for Best Horror and one for Best Debut across all genres. Deena Undone is traditionally published by Woodhall Press and was released on October 8th, 2024. It's available in paperback, Kindle, and on Audible. There will be a Spanish edition release in 2025, and DEBRA's stories have been published in various literary magazines, as well as in soon-to-be-published anthologies by Hippocampus Press and Fairfield Scribes. All right. So Deena Undone, although Deborah might be undone by the time she finishes all of her book promotion. We know how that goes. It's hot off the presses, so hopefully you'll check it out. And welcome, Deborah.
Thank you, Jim and Carol. I'm thrilled to be here. I've had a lot of people mix me up with Deena. It's disconcerting. But anyway, I'm going to be reading 2 excerpts from my book. Here's the book right here. And just to set up the first excerpt, I'll give you a little intro into where we are in the book so far. Deena Bartlett has tremendous guilt after not being with her mother during her long illness and death. She gets a second chance, caring for her dying, abusive Aunt Agatha, but strange things are happening. Her hearing was attacked when she was at the Brixton Playhouse where she works. She worries that it was her imagination, which makes her question her sanity, of course. Oh, and this chapter that I'm reading from was the inspiration for my short story, Beautiful Baby Bianca, which some of you had heard when we were all at the Shade Bar a few months ago. So here we go. Deena was just about asleep when a scream startled her awake. She bolted upright with her breathing coming in fast, shallow bursts until a vision across from her bed stopped that breathing in its tracks. The opposite wall was gone, replaced by a dark house overgrown with brambles. 2 large oak trees grew on either side, their shadows deepening the house's gloom. The smell of her mother's perfume floated toward the bed. There, in a 3rd-floor window, was her mother looking out at Deena. She seemed not angry. Worried was more like it. She was trying to say something, but Deena couldn't make out her words. It must have been important, because Zara's hands were balled into fists, and her head was craned forward. Deena tried to get out of bed, but her legs wouldn't move. What the hell's happening to me? The familiar beginnings of a panic attack took over. The trembling in her hands, the pressure in her head. She focused on her breathing in an effort to gain control. She just about managed when she sensed the air collapsing in on itself. The sound from Brixton Playhouse entered the room like an approaching train, quietly at first and then growing louder. But the taunting laughter wasn't taunting anymore. It was maniacal, taking over the inside of her head. This was unfinished business. It had been interrupted at Brixton, and somehow Deena knew it was angry. It wanted to hurt her, to scare her until all reason had been stripped away. The laughter bounced against the sides of her skull, came out from her eyes, rolled around her tongue, vibrated through her hair. Deena screamed with the pain of it as she felt herself falling into a deep, dark hole. And then a different sound joined in. Not a scream or a squeal or a laugh. It was a song Deena remembered from when she was young. And even though it was sung quietly, it rode above the cacophony, lilting and rocking. And with each note, the laughter inside her head peeled away and fell to the floor until all that was left were the blessed strains of that long ago melody. She sat, panting, her face, neck, and chest slick with sweat. When she looked up, she caught sight of a movement from the third-floor window of the imagined house. Her mother was holding a baby. And Deena knew exactly who it was. It was her. It was Deena. Zara brought her face close to the baby's cheek and kissed it as she hummed the Syrian lullaby Deena had heard more times than she could remember. Her mother rocked the baby back and forth, until it dropped off to sleep. She then turned her head up to Deena and smiled. Deena's grief was so deep and so wide, her throat swelled from the size of it. She wanted to lie next to her mother one more time. She wanted to talk about all she had missed. She wanted to reverse time and share a cup of coffee and laugh about this or that. She wanted to thank her for the rescue, and she wanted to say, "I'm sorry." And that's that one. That's that one. Very strange reading this with there's nobody actually there, I have to just say. Anyway, the next excerpt takes place a third of the way through the book. Deena now knows that her five senses are being attacked by an entity called the sensu, and that her sense of taste is next, but she hasn't told her husband, who is now insisting she eat a plate of eggs. Deena's nerves took the lead as she stared at the steam rising from her plate. The deep yellow of the eggs practically pulsed with ancient menace. Nausea rose up from her stomach as she breathed in the intense smell of sulfur. Her mouth suddenly felt dry. This wasn't food. This was toxic waste. Deena did her best to control the trembling of her hand as she poked at the mound with a fork like a kid poking a carcass with a stick. "Simon," she said, without taking her eyes off the eggs, "I can't. One bite, that's all I ask." She had no choice. She had to put the eggs in her mouth. It was either that or suffer the questions she knew Simon would ask. Deena braced herself and with enormous effort parted her lips, closing them around the fork's metal tines. The eggs felt wet and spongy on the roof of her mouth as she slid the fork out. The first earthy notes were already hitting the back of her throat and tongue as she got ready for what she knew was coming. But the eggs were fine. They tasted fine. Deena's shoulders slumped. "I'm sorry, Simon. I don't know what came over me." "Don't worry about it. Get a little food in your stomach and then we'll talk. Here, let me get you a piece of toast." Deena risked another forkful, but as hungry as she was, she forced herself to take her time. Slowly, tentatively, she hazarded another taste and another. Simon dropped a piece of toast on her plate, and Deena carefully bit down. God, it tasted good, crunchy and buttery. When her plate was finally empty, she smiled weakly at Simon and said, "I guess I was hungry." "More?" he asked. "No, I'm good, thanks." Simon stood and took her hand. "Come here, you." He brought her in close, held her face, and gently pressed his lips to hers. Safe, she thought. Deena wanted to get lost in him, to be carried away to any place but there. She offered herself up as Simon's arms grew tighter. Her breathing came in long, deep sighs, her parted lips against his, her cheeks warm with the want of him. Deena could taste his. Her face suddenly tightened. No, no, no. She wrestled herself loose, but it was too late. Deena, what's wrong? The kiss. It was the kiss, bringing with it a vile coating, thick and greasy. It took over the inside of her mouth, and with each breath bloomed with the rancid taste of decaying meat. No, it was worse than that. It was fecal, attacking the back of her throat and tongue with a bite so noxious. She imagined the inside of her mouth foaming with the poison of it. Water, she croaked. Simon ran to the sink and filled a glass as Deena grabbed onto the back of a chair for support. She seized the glass and took a gulp. But the putrid taste was in the water, liquefied and sliding down her throat. Her hand shot up to her neck as if she could claw the water out. What the hell is wrong? Said Simon, alarmed. A taste, she managed to say. A horrible taste. I can't. Deena lost her grip on the chair. Her head landed on the table with a crack, but she didn't feel it. Every breath she took was tainted with the thick taste of decay and death. She lifted her head, craning forward to force more air into her lungs, but her tongue was beginning to swell, threatening to block her airway. Hold on, said Simon. He picked Deena up and rushed outside to the car. She tried to stay calm, but when the car lurched forward, every bump and curve seemed to ratchet up her panic as she struggled to hold on. The next thing she knew, Simon was carrying her into the emergency room of Hillcrest Hospital. I need help here, he yelled. And that's when she passed out. And that's it.
Oh my goodness. Wow. That's amazing. Okay. Before I ask you any questions, I just got to share this. One of our regular attendees. Oh no, he says fecal taste in the mouth. Ew. No, 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 no. Ew.
It's really disgusting. It's just.
You did really well. You know, I just finished dinner. Yeah.
Good.
No, that's awesome. Oh, wonderfully creepy. You know, you did a really fabulous job of a lot of sensory detail that really set us where we were supposed to be. Yeah.
Great. I'm glad to hear it.
I do have one thought. That whole thing about, you know, the horrible taste she got in her mouth from the kiss. I think that little scene could also be shared with a lot of parents who want to convince their younger kids that you're too young to start kissing yet. Yes.
This is a tremendous idea. If I had girls, if I had known that, I would have written it a long time ago. Actually, I have boys. It could work with them.
It could work the same way, you know.
One is equal opportunity. Yeah, except they're 34 and 30. But you know what? It is never too late for the object lesson, right?
That's too funny. Yeah. Well, all right. We've got a really great question to start us out from Teal James Glenn, and so I'm going to put it up here. He wants to know what is your process? Yeah, what's your process for writing? Do you have a set time or place? Do you use music?
Well, until the launch of my book, because all writing has stopped now, which is
you're busy.
Very, very frustrating. No, I've got a crazy. What I do is I tend to be obsessive when I write, so I will write all day long until the night, and then I don't want to write. When my husband comes home, I want to spend time with him, so I stop for a while. But what I do is I email myself the book. I email myself what I've written. And then at night when I'm asleep, then I can start all over again by reading everything and taking screenshots of any edits that I have to do, so that when I wake up in the morning, I can just begin right off the bat. I can I can get my phone going. I can look at those screenshots and I can get started right away.
Yeah, look at that.
I am obsessive. I don't outline. I write as I go. I think so many of us do that. I did outline. Once I wrote Deena Undone, I decided to do a kind of outline. I did a scare map because I wanted to see if the scaring part was building, because I didn't want to have it be. I needed it to build to the gallop to the end, I like to call it, and I needed to do some adjusting to make sure that it did that. But yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
Cool. Yeah. And then he has another excellent question. What's the first thing that starts you off on your story? Character, location, mood, something else, theme?
Well, you're suggesting, Teal, that I have written millions and millions of stories, and I just so happy that you believe that. No, what I have written so far, it is this thing that starts it is this idea, the concept of the story is what starts me first. But I very quickly, once I know what that concept is, my focus is usually character and the way in which I write each paragraph. I mean, I was a musician, and the music of literature is really important to me. So I really focus a lot on the structure, the way the words sound and feel in my mouth. And of course, I know we all read our things over and over again. I know I do. I've read my book a million times, but it helps me to get a sense of what the music is in the words.
Mm-hmm.
Character is very, very important to me, though. And I need to see that they're three-dimensional. It's important.
Yeah. And we have to care about somebody if we're going to follow them through all this awful stuff that's going to happen.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's really cool. So you are relatively new to writing, and I know this is your debut psychological thriller. So how did you switch into doing writing from music?
Well, I've done a couple things. I was an opera singer, and I did that for about 10 years. I retired around the time that the travel became really way too difficult. Oh, yeah. I opened a restaurant. I've done a lot of things. But I had pretty much retired from all of it. And my Aunt Mary burned down her apartment in New York. She lived at 15th Ward. No, she was unscathed. There was not a hair on her head that was burnt. It was pretty remarkable. She spent the next year and a half. I moved her up here, and I was caring for her. It was very, very difficult. It was so difficult that I needed the catharsis of writing. That was what started me writing. Oh. And it's ironic because my aunt was my mentor in so many ways. She introduced me to New York, which in turn defined the direction of my life. So it's kind of ironic that she's responsible for me becoming an author now. So I started writing because if I didn't write, I would have screamed at her. And then we found our way back to each other. I read what I wrote. It was a great big pile of dog doo-doo. It was very discouraging. I put it aside and I wrote a second book, a speculative thriller called The Gene Sync Protocol. I queried it. I thought 50 people, querying it to 50 people was a lot. Apparently that's not a lot. I got a request for 3 full manuscripts. They didn't want it, which in itself is bad. No, you're nodding, that's good. No, it's bad. You see, if somebody only sees the first 10 pages and they don't want your book, you know in your heart that if they just gave the book a chance.
Right? They should have read more. Yeah.
No. These people had the whole book. They had the whole book, and they said, nah, I don't think so. Yeah. And then I was frustrated, and I saw everyone was looking for horror. This was I don't know, a couple of years ago, and I decided I'll pull out Agatha, I was calling it, and give that another go. And so that's how that happened. But along the way, when I had such a tough time with Gene Sync Protocol, I started writing some short stories. Boy, do I love short stories. I'm in love with it. I love that you can fool around with all these different genres and voices and people, and it's just this whole banquet of things that you can do. It's all within your grasp, and you don't have to spend 5 years working on it. It's just spectacular. I love it.
Yeah, that's cool. And I have been doing mostly short stories. That's what's been published for me, and it's cool because you really have to focus in. You can't get off on the side quests and this and the other. You've got to really pay attention. And there's a lot of us who feel that short stories for horror is a really good match. So
absolutely. Yeah. I think it's tough to I know somebody who's a big short story writer, and he also writes novels, and he readily admits that he feels more comfortable in the shorter form. I think short stories is definitely the way to go, for sure.
And what do you like to read, though? Do you read novels? Do you read short stories? Do you read both? Or
you mean you think I read now?
In your spare time? Yes.
No, I do read because I've been doing reviews for Ginger Nuts, so I get a chance to read those novels, and that's what I'm reading right now. Actually, I don't have a lot of time to read much more than what's on my TBR. to
Yeah,
be honest.
you don't get to pick so many of your own now. Yeah.
Yeah, but having said that, before I loved thrillers and horror. I mean, Dean Koontz was great. There's a literary fiction that I loved. I mean, I think Amor Towles is a god, in my opinion. But for the sheer fun of it, I just love thrillers and horror. I like trashy books. I like YA. I love VA Schwab. I love YA books as well. It's my short attention span and my immature ways.
There's something to be said for immediate gratification, you know?
Yes.
I think so. Well,
Absolutely.
this has been so much fun to chat with you and hear more about your book and all. We're going to ask you to come back in the end and we'll talk about what's going on after this. Okay.
Great. It's
Thank
been
you for
fun.
joining us, Deborah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks. Well, what I'd love to do is introduce our next reader tonight. And I'm very excited. We have somebody from outside of our chapter. We have Valerie B. Williams. She came to writing late in life, but is making up for lost time. She's an active member of the HWA and has benefited from its mentorship program, both as a mentee and earlier this year as a mentor. She also volunteered for the HWA as a Stoker Award verifier in 2021 and 2020. Her short fiction has been published by Flame Tree Press, Dark Recesses Press, Grendel Press, and Death Knell Press, among others. Her most recent story, An Echo of Murder, appeared in issue 3 in July 2024 of the Carnage House e-zine. Her story, Red Lipstick, will appear in Dastardly Damsel's anthology from Crystal Lakes Publishing on October 11. That's tomorrow. 3 more of her stories are scheduled for publication this year, 2 in October and 1 in December. Her debut novel, a story of supernatural suspense titled The Vanishing Twin, was released by Crossroad Press on October 1st of this year. Valerie spins twisty tales from her home in Central Virginia, which she shares with her very patient husband and equally patient golden retriever. When not writing, she can be found reading and drinking either tea or wine, depending on the time of day. More about Valerie at valeriebwilliams.com. Valerie?
Hi, thanks, Carol. Appreciate the intro. Yes, The Vanishing Twin is my debut novel, must be debut novel night. And just to set up, I'm going to read from chapter 3, but just to let you know where we're at. The overall story is about the relationship between a set of fraternal twins, Yvette and Anna. And there's a third entity involved in this relationship named Celine, who only Yvette can hear. It's like a voice in her head that she's heard since she was a child. But when the novel opens up, Yvette is at a bar celebrating a big real estate commission. And she has left her son, Max, her 3-year-old son, Max, with Anna for the evening. Her husband, Chuck, is out of town. She is talking to Celine in the bar subtly because she knows not to do it out loud. And when she leaves the bar, she has had too much to drink. She drives too fast. She has a terrible accident and is hospitalized and is in a coma. And this chapter opens where Yvette is just coming out of the coma. Darkness encompassed Yvette like a cocoon. Her eyes felt like they were held down with weights. She sunk into a sea of nothing and sailed there for what felt like a very long time. Gradually, she became aware that she was lying on her back in a bed. The only sounds were strange beeps. She remembered a gentle hand and closed her right hand to squeeze in return, but found it empty. She felt fuzzy and numb until she rolled to one side and was rewarded by a piercing pain that made her gasp. Her tongue felt as if it was glued to the roof of her mouth. She opened her eyes to a blurry view of a white acoustic tile ceiling. Turning her head revealed a putty-colored tray table. A further turn showed the railings of a hospital bed. A timpani sounded in her ears, getting louder with each movement. She lay still and closed her eyes to quiet the drumming and stop the room from spinning. Heavy footsteps approached her bed. Not the soft swish of a nurse's footwear, but the clack of street shoes. Maybe a doctor? A man picked up her right hand and brushed it with dry lips. Not a doctor. She caught the spicy scent of a familiar aftershave. Her husband rested his hand on top of hers, enclosing it completely. "Hi, sweetheart," Chuck's voice. A long pause. "The doctor said you should be waking up soon. Squeeze my hand if you can hear me." Yvette remained completely still. Where was Anna? How long had she been unconscious? Her last memory was of driving past Anna's house toward the park. "I'm not mad about the car," Chuck said. "Max needs his mother, and I need you too. I love you." The car? She'd been in an accident? She wanted answers, but not from Chuck. It was everything she could do to stay still, not sure what to believe. They shared a house, a bed, and a son, but not love. He hadn't said he loved her in months. He spent more and more time in the city and traveling, usually accompanied by his assistant, Tandy. The jokes he made about Tandy being his office wife weren't funny anymore. Yvette had thrown herself into her business in his absence. But while the business was stimulating and rewarding, it also took her away from Max. She missed their silly games at bath time and his chatter at the breakfast table. Most days she was gone before he woke up and came home after his bedtime. Real estate sales didn't respect a 5-day work week, so she didn't even have weekends to look forward to catching up with him. And he was growing up so fast. Thank goodness for Anna. Chuck's lips on her cheek broke her out of her reverie, but still she didn't move. The smell of scotch was strong. "Bye, sweetheart. Hope you'll be awake next time." His footsteps moved toward the door. She counted to 100 to make sure he was gone, opened her eyes, and groped for the call button. 2 days after she awoke, Yvette squinted at Dr. Evans as the neurologist made one last note on her iPad. Anna sat in the bedside chair, holding Yvette's good hand. A wide strip of white surgical tape covered Yvette's nose and part of the bruising under each eye. A large gauze dressing hid the laceration on her forehead, and plaster encased her left wrist. After one glance in the mirror the day she regained consciousness, she avoided looking at her reflection. Strong meds kept most of the pain at bay, except for the ribs. Even through an opioid haze, rapid movements or deep breaths made her feel like she was being stabbed. She was so weak she needed a nurse's help to bathe and use the toilet. The only light streamed into the room through partially closed blinds to spare her eyes from the glare of overhead fluorescence. "You suffered a brain injury, or TBI," said Dr. Evans. Her sensible short hair was ribboned with gray, and glasses hung on a beaded chain around her neck. "You were in a coma for 8 days. It will take intensive therapy to get back to normal, but there's no reason to believe you won't. You're young and strong." She smiled and patted Yvette's blanket-covered leg. "All things considered, you're a very lucky woman." "When will my vision get better?" asked Yvette. Besides being light sensitive, everything was blurry. "Time should take care of most of it, but the therapists have exercises that will help." Dr. Evans widened and rolled her eyes to illustrate. "They'll run tests on your coordination and physical strength to determine what other exercises you need." She glanced at the iPad. "Plus, they'll test your cognitive skills and speech. Although based on the past 2 days, those areas seem unaffected. I repeat, you're very lucky. Your job in the near term is to listen to the therapist and work hard." "Hard work has never been her problem," said Anna. She squeezed her sister's hand. "Isn't that right?" Yvette nodded and returned her attention to the doctor. "How long do I have to have therapy?" "That depends on what the therapists find and on your progress. There isn't a magic formula, I'm afraid." Dr. Evans touched Yvette's arm. "You'll tire easily, so try not to get frustrated, okay? You may hate your therapists at first, but you'll thank them later, trust me." The neurologist gave her a wink. "When do I start?" asked Yvette. The sooner she started, the sooner she'd get to go home. Dr. Evans consulted her iPad once more. "Looks like your first visit will be tomorrow with Nell. The therapist will come to you until you heal from your other injuries, then you'll go to the therapy center." She pulled a pamphlet from her white coat pocket and handed it to Anna. This explains more about TBI and its treatment. You can read it to your sister later. She turned back to Yvette. I'll see you tomorrow, young lady. It's good to have you back. Good to be back, said Yvette. She started to smile, but stopped when pain shot through her face. She leaned back and closed her eyes. When she opened them again, it was dark, Anna was gone, and she was alone. Celine, said Yvette, her voice still scratchy from tubes recently removed from her throat. Nothing. Silence filled her head, despite the constant hospital noise. Celine had stopped speaking to her in the past, pouting about one thing or another, but she always came back. Celine, I'm sorry. I should have listened to you, thought Yvette. Sometimes Celine responded better to thoughts than audible speech. Less distance to travel, she joked. Nothing. Yvette remembered arguing with her at the bar, with Celine playing spoiler. But wine had removed her common sense along with her frustrations. This silence was different. She felt hollow inside, like someone had wrenched her heart from her chest. She was torn between relief and loneliness. Celine had been her constant companion since childhood, a shadow giving advice, arguing, pushing her to do better. Like a conscience with a voice that only Yvette could hear. Celine had been putting a lot of pressure on her lately. She said she wasn't working hard enough, wasn't spending enough time with Max, wasn't having enough sex with Chuck. Ha! Celine always had a strong sex drive. She didn't have to deal with the pitfalls of a physical body. For Celine, it was like showing up for the party and leaving before the cleanup. Yvette had been tired to the bone. Drinking helped her cope and had been a harmless escape, but she'd overestimated her abilities just once and was now paying dearly. Her heart raced with dread at the thought of navigating her recovery alone. The beeps on the monitor sped up and she broke into a cold sweat, head pounding. She reached for the kidney-shaped plastic bowl on the bedside table and retched, but nothing came up. Celine could be annoying and preachy sometimes, but Yvette couldn't have survived her father's desertion and her mother's remarriage without her. There'd never been a challenge in her life that Celine hadn't helped her through. A nurse strode into the room, soft-soled shoes barely making a whisper. She looked at the monitor, then reached for Yvette's wrist. Your skin feels clammy, she said. Are you feeling all right? Her eyes fell on the plastic bowl resting on Yvette's lap. A little dizzy for a moment. I'm sure it's the concussion. I feel better now, really. She put the bowl back on the bedside table and gave the nurse a weak smile. Use the call button if you need anything. That's what it's there for. The nurse nodded and left the room. Relieved to be alone again, Yvette closed her eyes and practiced the calming breaths she learned in yoga, slowing the beats back to normal. Maybe Celine would return, but in the meantime, she still had Anna. Her sister had taken on a lot lately, caring for Max when she and Chuck were working with never a complaint. With Yvette facing a months-long recovery, the load on Anna would be even greater. As she dozed off, she promised to show her sister more appreciation. Anna was the only one she could turn to who truly had her best interests at heart. And in order to find out if she does, you'll have to read the book.
Thank you so much, Valerie. That was wonderful. Very, very intriguing. Lots of cool stuff happening.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So now this is your debut novel too.
Mhm.
And this just came out on October 1st.
Right.
Just in time for Halloween.
Good timing.
Yes, definitely. So I'm going to jump right in with a question because this is something I was wondering too, because it's a lot to take on to writing, to write a twin relationship. And so we have a question from Amy Greck. Do twins run in your family? So now I was going to ask you if you were a twin, if that's why you were attracted to that.
No and no.
Okay.
Well, I'm trying to think. No, we don't have any twins in our family. Yeah.
All right. Easy, very simple answer. Great. So, well, then what appealed to you about writing characters who are twins?
Well, I like the aspect of fraternal twins instead of identical twins because they're alike and different at the same time. It's like externally they look very different, but internally the twinship is there. I actually had rescued these two characters from an earlier NaNoWriMo novel, which will never see the light of day. But I loved the characters, so I pulled them out and put them into a new story. They changed quite a bit from going from one story to the other. But I like the sister relationship. I think I'm not sure I consciously was looking to write a twin story. It was more of a sister story. Because I was very close to my sister, and we weren't twins, but we were only 13 months apart. So we were very close. So it was more the sisters than the twins.
Great. All right. And I'm curious about how you came around to writing and why horror in particular.
Strange. I didn't even think about writing creatively until I was well into my 40s. I always knew I could put together a sentence and a paragraph and make sense and have a beginning, middle, and an end, but I never thought I was creative. And then I decided to give it a shot. But as far as horror, that had always been what I had read. I read a lot of horror growing up. So, but although interestingly, when I first started writing, I didn't even try to write horror. I was trying to write literary fiction and failing miserably at it because there was nothing there. There was no plot. Nothing happened. It's probably me more than literary fiction, but once I started to try and twist things around, then I started to have a lot more fun with it. And I took a ton of courses and workshops and stuff to make sure I knew what I was doing. I mean, when I started, really aging myself here, when I started writing, I did not realize that you no longer did two spaces after a period.
Oh.
Yeah. I had to learn that. So.
Don't feel bad. I still see that debate raging on social media every once in a while.
What was wrong with two spaces, damn it? Get off my lawn.
No, that's great. And I'm curious too, Carol and Deborah were talking a bit about the difference between writing novels and short fiction, and you've written both. Do you have a preference? Are you comfortable in one format more than the other, or?
I think I'm more comfortable with short fiction because that's what I started with, and it's nice to be able to, the shorter time frame I like. And when I first started writing a novel, my foolish assumption was, well, hell, a novel's just a bunch of scenes stuck together. I can write scenes. We'll just glue them all together, and lo and behold, there's a novel. And it didn't quite work out that way. So I'm still learning to write novels. I've got another one that's in the final throes of revision right now, and I have a novella that's about 2/3 drafted. So I want to continue with the longer works, but I'm never going to give up the short stories. I love the short stories. And it's really frustrating sometimes when you're in the middle of a novel and all these cool short story submission calls come out. And it's like, I don't have time. So yeah, shorts are my first love, I think. But they don't, sadly, they don't sell like novels do.
Right.
And and it's a real balancing act. I have enough for a collection now, but I didn't want to try and put out a collection because nobody had heard of me. So,
yeah, it's definitely novels sell better than collections.
Yeah.
And but I'm with you. I always appreciate a market call with a long lead time before the deadline.
It's like, this is 3 months. I can work this one in.
Right. Yeah, I might actually be able to make time. But yeah, so many of them pop up on my radar at least, where it's like, next week or the end of the month, and it's like, well, I have these other projects I have to finish. So
yeah, I mean, unless you have a short story in your hip pocket that perfectly fits that sub call, you're kind of out of luck.
Yeah. Do you consider that you write a certain type of horror, or supernatural or psychological?
I don't know. I've written kind of a little of, I don't want to say everything because cosmic scares me. I can't write cosmic horror. I tend to, what I've discovered that I enjoy the most, I tend to really like historical horror. My favorite short stories that I've written two that were in the Civil War, written one that was in Victorian England. My novella that I'm working on right now is in 1600s Europe during, the witch hunts. The novel that I'm working on is in 1910 Richmond. So I like the historical aspect, and it's kind of I love the research because I'm a research junkie.
Okay.
But it kind of makes it easier in the horror genre because you can isolate people in the olden times because they don't have cell phones.
Yeah, there's that.
It's so much easier to isolate people if you go back a few decades.
And it's funny because my next question was going to be, you must like research.
I love research.
Yeah.
I love research.
So I do too. I love historical horror. I think there's so much you can do with it, and I enjoy reading it, and I love doing the research when I write it. So
yeah,
it's a lot of fun. But that's always a tricky thing, and creating that sense of isolation in a day where when we're so constantly connected.
Yeah, I wrote one short story. No, it hasn't been published yet, but I had a gal on an airplane, and she had a burner phone with her, and the only way I could disable it was to have her drop it down the toilet. It worked.
That's it. I'm waiting for somebody to figure out that all they have to do is have the phone launch an automatic system upgrade at the time that someone's trying to call the police, and you're like,
that would do it. That would absolutely do it.
Oh, that's great. So here we have a comment. If you're afraid of cosmic horror, Nicholas says, all the more reason to write cosmic horror. So, well, terrific. Thank you so much for reading from the book tonight, The Vanishing Twin, and we'll have you back on a little bit later to talk some more.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you all for joining us tonight. And our next reader is LOU RERA. And LOU has a lifetime of experience in the creative arts. His career spans decades working within the video, film, and design industries as a producer and director. In academics, he taught media as a professor of communication and television and film arts, and he has spent decades as a horror writer and a musician and composer of music. LOU is the creative genius who makes our graphics and video intros each month for Galactic Terrors. So thank you so much for that, LOU, and for making us look good. And you can find some of LOU's other video trailers at lourera.com video. And because LOU left it out of his bio, I'm just going to mention his collection Awake, which is a fantastic collection of short horror stories if you get a chance to check it out. All right. Welcome, LOU.
Hey, how are you? Hey, everybody. Tonight I want to do something a little bit different. Since we're all writers and we're tasked with promoting our writing, that seems to be problematic for us when we sit down and try and figure out exactly how to wrestle that and get something out of it. And what I'm going to do tonight is show you my approach to book trailers. It's like a movie trailer, but it's for a book, and they can be anywhere from 2 to 3 seconds long, all the way to the full length of an old movie trailer, like 2 minutes and 30 seconds long. But before I do that, since it is coming up on Halloween, there's a different kind of horror that we're all dealing with right now, and I think this video will be self-explanatory. It's somewhat dated, but the message is not. So I have to thank Rod Serling for the original idea on this one. Here we go, I think. Okay, it's, here we go. Technical difficulties. I'm trying to get it to play.
Bad man. You're a very bad man. And you keep thinking bad thoughts about me.
Wish it into the cornfield. Please, son, wish it into the cornfield, please.
Okay, so sorry about the political aspect of that, but I think all of us on some level are fried from all of the stuff that's been circling around us like buzzards. So that's just an off the side thing for me. I did it a few years ago, but I'm sure everybody gets it. Anyway, I want to get to the meat of what I was going to discuss. And I want to show you a movie trailer or a book trailer that I consider to be poorly done. And if the person happens to be on this site right now watching this who created it, I apologize in advance. But this is an example of of a book trailer that probably should have never made it off of someone's computer. So give me a second to load it, and we'll be right with you. All right, so I think after the first 2 to 3 seconds, most people are gone when that starts playing. And statistically, from the analytics that TikTok and Facebook and Instagram provide, if you don't have somebody ready to really dig into what you've done after the first few seconds, you've lost them. They're gone. So you really need to figure out a way to get to someone, encourage them visually and through audio to stick with you. What message are you trying to show somebody or tell someone? So let me show you a couple of different ones now that actually succeeded in doing that, and you'll see what I mean. And this one's really clever one by Stephen King's people. There's no audio track. So this one, you want to watch it because you don't know what's happening. And the simple use of black and white or red done with keys make it real enticing and interesting. And if you read the book, The Outsiders, you'd understand the concept behind this video in the first place. You don't have to know the book to appreciate the video, but once you do, you can understand how brilliant that piece actually was. So we'll take a look at a couple other ones that I think are successful, and then I'm going to show you how I built one for Even in the Grave from HWA and all the contributing authors for that one. And that one starts off with just a simple graphic. So Carol, if you could call up the still graphic for Even in the Grave. the title of the book. Call up that graphic. There we go. And so I wanted to do a simple demonstration of what we could do with Even in the Grave, edited by Jim and Carol. It's a great cover. Whoever designed the cover did a beautiful job with it. But I wanted to figure out a way, like, what could I do quickly, something that I could pull off in maybe a couple hours, you know, to bring animation or video to this title and to make it compelling and interesting. So I'll show you the stages of that first. I did everything I do for this kind of stuff. I find public domain video or audio so that there is no problem with rights issues. So I'll call up that first one. Let's see. Okay, so this is the background animation for a hand popping out of the grave. And that was public domain. I used that as my background. And the next thing I did was find some music for that. And I wanted to use the same font or a similar font that was used in the book cover. So the next piece was done like this. So it's really simple. There's nothing complicated about it. I wanted the use of a smoky kind of feel to reveal the text, and I have the text kind of waving as the smoke reveals each letter of the text and presents itself over the hand pushing itself out of the grave. So that is sort of a finished book trailer. But the one issue that a lot of people don't consider is the various formats for TikTok, for Instagram, for Facebook, for all the social media platforms. And they have, and Carol, if you could call up the aspect ratio there, thank you. That is some of the aspect ratios you have to deal with when you're creating a book trailer. So obviously everyone's familiar with 16:9, and then 16:9 or 9:16 vertical, 1:1 aspect ratio, 4:3, 4:5, 21:9, and so on and so forth. So how do you deal with that when you're trying to create promotional materials for your book or your stories? And you know, how do you work within the confines of each different presentation system? And how do you do this without spending a lot of extra time recreating everything from the beginning? So I'm going to show you another example of one that I did for the vertical aspect of that same thing. And then I'm going to show you one that TikTok has been getting into now, where they split the screen and they actually use the real estate for two different messages. That's become a common thing right now. So let's take a look at this one first, which is the vertical aspect for TikTok. Okay, and the next one I want to show you is the final one I did for this series, which is how TikTok is encouraging people, and I've seen it through Madison Avenue ads, you know, where they're splitting the screen up in different ways to take advantage of the vertical format. So some people find it constricting, but I find it something that just challenges the way you think about something, but how do you make it still interesting for the viewer? I mean, you are, after all, trying to sell a story, sell a book, sell an anthology. So let me call up this last one. Please. Oh, here we go. Yep. So you get the idea. So there are, with all the different aspect ratios, you still have to come up with a concept that's interesting to people. You want to keep their attention. You want it to be dynamic enough to keep things moving along. And you don't want to do it by spending thousands and thousands of dollars, right? Because you can do that too. This next trailer I'll show you, I did a few years ago when my novel came out, Sign, and this was a full-blown production. It was every bit the same work that goes into feature films or short films went into creating this trailer.
An animal. Just a dying, pathetic animal.
Okay, so that takes it to the extreme, at least for me, where you can do something that's 1 or 2 seconds long, that just snaps somebody's attention, or you can do something cinematic like that was done. That took weeks to prepare for and weeks to shoot and do the edits. So they're extremes. But the point I'm trying to make with this discussion here is one-sided discussion, I'm sorry, but it is, how do you promote your work? How do you get somebody's attention? How do you keep their attention? And how do you address all the different things for social media in terms of aspect ratio, size, duration, because they all have their own time. For instance, Instagram prefers Instagram Reels, 15 to 30 seconds. TikTok, 15 to 60 seconds. Now, I know there are people that have things that are 30 minutes long on various platforms. Twitter or X, 15 to 45 seconds. Facebook, 1 to 2 minutes, and so on and so on. So how do you do that? How do you prepare something that will capture somebody's attention and do it in a way that's engaging? You have to remember that audiences are sophisticated. They go to the cinema, they see all these different types of films with effects, the Marvel universe, and so on and so forth. And you want to make sure that you are giving them that type of experience that's tied to your book, to your story, somehow, somewhere. So, and you can spend a whole range of money with that stuff. But one of the things I'm doing with this presentation tonight is for HWA people and other authors, I do this as a service. And it doesn't cost anywhere near the fees that you read about. Like I've seen them between $5,000 and $8,000. My minimum charge for a package that fits all aspect ratios is $260. So that is the minimum, but it depends what you want to do. But the way things are right now, I mean, I'm very surprised by how talented people are, how the production level of anybody producing stuff with Canva. Some people use After Effects and other sophisticated software, 3D software and things like that. You don't need to do that. You don't need to go that far. It's about the message. I like to read scripts. For instance, I'll make this quick. One of the best scripts I ever read was Michael Clayton, and for film, and on the other side for television, the pilot episode for Breaking Bad. If you read through scripts or for television or film, you can get a really clear idea what the writer was going for, because they pull away all the superfluous stuff that you would need as you're putting together a scenario in a novel. You pull all that stuff away and you come up with what would somebody need to see. So I'm going to stop there, because I could go on and on and on about how these things are done. Myself, I'm a practitioner of this. I do this every week. I've been doing HWA's Galactic Terrors for 5 years, which I find astounding that it's been that long already. But anyway, if anybody has any questions about how to market your book through book trailers, that type of thing, feel free to contact me at lourera.com. I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have about it. It's an interesting thing, but we all know that if we write something, we have to promote it. And what's the best way to promote something? You got to be in someone's face all the time, and that is so difficult. I'm the worst person at it, by the way, in terms of promotion. I'm an introvert, so I'm kind of screwed. But anyway, thanks for listening. And oh, hi, Carol and
Hey.
Jim.
This is so exciting. I just want to first say, when we started Galactic Terrors, it was during the pandemic. We were doing this in place of in-person readings, and I used Camtasia, which is video editing software, and I had some very, very, rudimentary opening videos, and yeah, they were great for the time. And then Lou came in and took us like way to the next level. It made us look so much more professional and more better. So thank you, Lou, for all the work you've been doing for all these years.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And I think you hit on one of the things I find, and this isn't even doing trailers or video, it's just doing promotional graphics for social media. The different aspect ratios and requirements for all the platforms drives me nuts, and it's like I'm constantly retooling a graphic to fit here or there, and as a result, I just do them for a couple of platforms. I don't do them for all the platforms, because it takes too much time.
Yeah, so, and I find that there's been a lot of talk about AI and all different types of, whether AI is writing something or producing imagery. It's sort of it's a scary world, because I've experimented with this stuff, and an illustration that might take me a few hours can be done in a few minutes. Now, there's a lot of problems with that, not just ethically and morally, but there's problems with the end result. And it's a warning. It's sort of like AI's out there. People use it for assistance in programming and all sorts of things, but it's here to stay. And we, as content creators have to figure out a way to either integrate that stuff into our work or somehow completely work around it, which I think is going to be almost impossible. I don't know. Do we have time for me to call up 2 pictures?
Yeah, I think so. And then we just have one question from the audience for you.
Yeah, why don't we do the question first?
Oh, well, do your pictures first. Since
Okay,
we're on a thread
Carol,
here.
could you call up let me
Which
just
one?
see. Yeah, it's man and woman. There's 2 of them.
Oh, the one's the ID
11 and
two?
12 or 12
Ah, I
and
gotcha.
13.
I've
I
got
see.
13.
13.
Yeah, call that up.
Okay, here's 13.
Okay, now I created this off of a chapter in my book, and I told the system, the AI system, that I wanted it to be noirish, and I also said that I wanted it to be in the illustrative style of a graphic novel. All right, so it pretty much did that. Now, if you could call up the other one, Carol. There's another one.
11. I have 11. Is that?
Yeah, no. It would be 13, maybe.
No, those are the ones I had. I'm sorry. IG new?
Nope. That's okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't get that one.
That's okay. My point is that I experimented with that to see if I could get the system, the AI system, through GPT-4, working with DALL-E 3, to see if I could describe through text and some JavaScript what I actually wanted as an end result. And it came close, but it wasn't what I wanted. So, but it got close. And the time it took to generate the image was so fast that as an illustrator, a designer, I could never actually do that. So that's the warning sign I see, is that the speed in which these AI systems can do their work is much faster than what humans are capable of, at least now.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's something that we should be sounding the warning about, because regardless of the speed and efficiency that AI might apply, that image is being built on the work of humans that has been
yes,
ingested without permission and repurposed by algorithms for that AI to be able to do that.
Exactly.
And so I think a lot of us in creative roles are deeply concerned about exactly how, what does this mean for the future, and can we stop that?
Right.
This uncompensated use of people's work, in a sense, and there's a lot to it. It's a big discussion, and I mean, I encourage anyone listening who's concerned about it to dig into it and check out. The Authors Guild has a statement about AI that the HWA signed on to recently that was very interesting and offered some interesting options for how we can proceed to kind of coexist with AI without it taking over work that humans are doing.
Yes.
And if you're an HWA member, I think there's still time to respond to the survey that was issued to all members about artificial intelligence to help the help the HWA build a policy framework that, our members are pleased with. So anyway, we're getting a little bit off topic, but
sure.
Yes,
I think it's pretty remarkable and frightening. And
Yes.
I mean, I've always thought that, oh, hey, Skynet is about to happen, was really laughable until the last year.
Yeah. And I just have just a quick fun thing to share. At one point I took Chat GPT and I asked it to make a picture of an octopus holding a human heart. And it gave me an octopus and it gave me a heart with a human hand holding the heart. It's like, no, that's not right. It will get better. It will get better, but still, it's not the same as a person.
We do have a fun question from Nicholas Dyack. Do different genres adapt trailers easier than others, like steampunk versus Canadian romance? What are different obstacles genres face when being trailerified?
Well, it's like anything. I mean, what identifies something as steampunk as a genre in the first place? And, if you know the genre, then there are visual cues that you can use to bring someone to that idea. And that's one of the things that when Carol just mentioned the octopus in the heart, mixing genre in terms of illustrative work to sort of promote something is something that we've been faced with since the 1950s, actually, and before that, So each genre presents its own set of problems.
Yeah.
But that also means that you can present some interesting solutions.
Cool.
Interesting. Yeah,
All
that's
right.
interesting and creative. And can I ask just one thought? If you're doing a short video trailer, how do you catch somebody's attention and keep them paying attention to the end of that 15 seconds, 30 seconds? What kills it and what keeps it going? Whether we're doing it ourselves or talking to somebody like you, a professional, to do it for us. Yeah.
When Deborah was reading and she was talking about her work, she said she was a musician also, and I am as well. And I know a number of people within HWA are multi-talented in different capacities. And I don't consider video and audio as separate things. It's one thing. And that's how you build people's emotional feelings towards something. And you can play with that stuff. Horror movies do it all the time. I mean, the classic jump scare, but without sound effects or Foley work or music and drama, it sort of puts out the fire of the suspension. So, and silence is also used in a way where I've seen brilliant pieces where, you're almost leaning your head towards the screen, then all of a sudden, bang, something happens audio-wise. So I believe that if you handle the audio the same way you would handle video in terms of experimentation and uniqueness, you'll keep your audience.
Okay,
Terrific.
thank you. Thank you.
All right. Well, I think it's time
thanks.
for Deborah and Valerie to join us too,
Yes,
and
excellent.
we'll kind of hear what everybody has coming up on the horizon.
Yeah. This has been such a fun evening because such different stuff and exciting things, really nice combination. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Lou, thank you for the behind the scenes tour
you're welcome.
and the sort of the peek at the technical specs and all the issues. I do have kind of a silly question for you, and I have a bad habit of doing this when we're on video meetings and things, is looking in the background. So I can see it's some musical instruments and it's all great. And then behind them is a cabinet that looks like a demon tried to get into it.
Those demons were my granddaughters.
Oh,
it serves as it's sort of a chalkboard as well as cabinets.
Oh,
so
cool.
I let them do whatever they want down here. You can't see in the other room, but I let them paint on the walls and floors and when they were littler. So it's part their space and part my space.
That's awesome. Yeah. We're all coming over to draw on your cabinet.
That's it.
You're welcome. Yes.
Yeah, I'm loving the bass behind you.
Yes,
I have Paul McCartney style.
Yes, it's a Hofner bass. Yeah, I have that bass, and somewhere back there I have a Rickenbacker bass,
nice.
4001. I have a banjo and a Fender guitar hanging back there you can't see.
Wow.
And a keyboard behind you, right there, and microphones here and there, and it's where I play.
Fantastic.
Cool.
Deborah, do you have a setup for music too?
I was a singer. I mean, I have a piano, but I wouldn't call what I do playing the piano. I depress the keys and sound.
My cat used to do that too. Yes.
Depress the keys, but not the listeners.
No, you don't want to hear me play. No, I was a singer.
You do a different kind of art. Yes.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I know, your book just came out 2 days ago, but this is where we traditionally ask you what you have coming up next.
Well, oddly, I have a lot of things coming up next. It's not usually like this. Well, you mentioned that I have a couple of short stories getting published. It'll be published in the next month. Nearer Falls in Hippocampus Press's Penumbra annual weird anthology. And then collectible will be included in Fairfield Scribes anthology, Don't Be a Hero, a Villainthology. You know how long it took me to be able to say that word, Villainthology? So, and then yesterday or the day before, I had a great time with, do you guys know Travis Bruce from Horror Realm? He has a podcast on YouTube. Anyway, that dropped today, but I'll be putting a link in my socials because we had a great talk. I am extremely excited also that next week I'll be sitting down with Michelle Schmer. Do you guys know Coffee Fueled Stories? Mm-hmm. It's a great.
Yeah.
I am so excited to sit down with her. Anyway, we're going to be talking on the 14th. I don't know when it's going to be posted, but she said it'll be sometime this month. And then on the 18th, you can hear me live at Correct Me If I'm Norm with Norm Magnuson at Radio Free Rhinecliff. And then I have a big launch party on the 26th, but it's sold out. It's sold out.
And then, what a problem to have.
Yeah, and then actually, Carol, you're going to be there too on November 1 and 2. I'll be at Horror Reader Weekend for their Horror on the Hudson. It's going to be at Overlook Lodge in Highland Falls, and there is a great lineup of people. Very exciting, and Carol's going to be there, so that's very cool.
We're going to have fun, yeah.
Yeah, and then on November 9th, from 1 to 3, I'll be signing books at the Barnes & Noble in Center City, Philadelphia. And that is all she wrote.
That's nice.
Yeah, and then for the rest of the next 5 years, I'll be doing absolutely nothing.
You're going to lay down and go, phew. Yeah,
it's been a while.
Awesome.
Cool.
Gosh. So Valerie, your book has been out a little longer, so I'm sure you have some things coming up too.
Well, I'm exhausted just listening to what Deborah has lined up.
Yeah.
So, right? I don't have nearly that much lined up. Although
it just happened for me. It's new.
I'm learning that, as you had mentioned, Deborah, that when you have a book coming out, it kind of takes everything else and shoves it off to the side until you finish dealing with all that, because my poor work in progress is screeched to a halt, and until I can get through this period. But as far as what I've got coming out next, Dastardly Damsels anthology releases tomorrow.
Do you mind if I show the picture?
Oh, please.
There it is. Yeah, look at this.
Spectacular.
Yeah.
33 all women authors. And I've got, let me see, a few of the people besides me. We've got Nancy Holders in there, Donna J. Monroe, H.R. Boldwood, Jesse Wolfe, Elaine Pascal, Nachin Casa, Nancy Kilpatrick, Chelsea Quinn Yarborough. I mean, it's just like, it's an amazing TOC. And it's been in the works for a long time, so we're pretty excited about it. So that comes out tomorrow. I've got 2 stories the end of October in Siren's Call. I've got a flash piece and a regular piece. And then in December, I've got another short story in the Bite anthology from Graveside Press that's coming out. And as far as promo for the novel, I've got a reading in Williamsburg, Virginia on Sunday. Signing. And then I'm going to be part of the first annual Word Fest in Stanton, Virginia on the 19th, Saturday the 19th. And there's a couple of HWA familiar names there. Beth Massey is going to be there, and Dave Sims, he's one of the organizers. Oh, yeah. And
what was the name of it again?
Called Word Fest.
Word Fest. Oh,
Queen
okay.
City Word Fest is what it is.
Cool. Very
Stanton,
cool.
Virginia. And it's going to be a bunch of authors, like over 30 authors, different genres. It's not purely a horror thing. It's a book thing. So I'll be part of the Meet the Authors session in the afternoon. And so I'm looking forward to that, because it's the first time I've actually been out there selling books and promoting books. And I'm prepared. I have a candy dish and chocolate to lure people to my table. So if nothing else, I'll eat a lot of chocolate. So.
To bring things full circle, do you have candy corn?
I want to bring them in, not drive them away.
I knew I liked you.
Well, that's great. Yeah.
Lou, what's coming up for you? You've been doing all this work with video and such. Are you doing some writing and things, or what are you?
Yes, actually, yes, I am. But I'm a Tootsie Roll Pop fan. So, that's for Halloween. But yeah, I have a short story I'm trying to finish up titled Flashbulb, and a novel that is 2 years in the making and probably another 2 years to finish it. I'm very slow, but it's titled The Tin Mask. I know where I want to go. I just got to get there.
Yes, that's fair. Yeah. Well, Jim, we have a few things we're doing together.
Yes, yeah. Carol and I both have anthologies out this month too.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I think we have the covers. I can throw a quick cover image up. Oh yeah.
Yes,
so
this is
stunning. God,
this is my Discontinue If Death Ensues, Tales from the Tipping Point, coming from Flame Tree Press in the U.S. on the 15th. And the quick story is that this is what we talked about last month on Galactic Terrors, but the 5 of us were nominees for the Stoker Award for Superior Achievement in Short Fiction, and we got together and created an anthology. So there's myself, Lee Murray, Kyla Lee Ward, Anna Taborska, and Cindy O'Quinn. And so it's Kat Sparks from Australia, who's won millions of awards, called it stabby and full of foreboding. So
I love that description.
That's great. Yeah. And the cover illustration is by Lynn Hansen, Lou, that's who did the Even in the Grave cover art, is Lynn Hansen.
Yeah, on the book itself, she did the little piece here, and then the artwork is also on the inside, the bigger piece of it, which is very cool. Yeah,
she's very good.
Oh yeah,
she's awesome.
Yeah,
she's awesome. Yeah.
And
your book, yes.
Yeah, Where the Silent Ones Watch.
Woo!
Stories and poems inspired by and set in the literary worlds of William Hope Hodgson, who wrote The House on the Borderland, The Nightlands, Boats of the Glencarrig, The Ghost Pirates, and created Carnacki, the Ghost Finder.
And a very cool story about mushrooms too. Yeah.
Yes.
When does that come out, Jim?
That released. Yeah,
Just
it came
did.
out October 1st. It came out earlier than I was expecting. So
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, very excited. And Dan Sauer is the artist and designer for that cover. He did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
And so Carol and I are taking advantage of the publication proximity to do some events. We'll be in Beacon, New York this Saturday, October 12th at Stanza Book.
I'm excited.
Yay.
What's that? Did you do that?
For you? Yeah.
Oh my God. I didn't know we could do that. We're unlocking the dark secrets of StreamYard.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I thought maybe I made it happen myself.
Yeah. Just through sheer excitement.
Yeah. I just put that link for the Stanza event in the. Oh, did it work?
No, but we all love research.
There we go.
About the comment from Kathleen about loving research, which.
Yeah. Oh, and I have one more thing. Speaking of Lynn Hansen covers and really cool things to share, this is Dark Spores, Stories We Tell After Midnight, Volume 4. Rachel Brune and I are rapidly, aggressively wrapping this up. It's gonna publish on Halloween, and this is a bunch of mushroom horror stories.
Nasty.
Quite a few. And as a matter of fact, Jim Chambers has a story in there, so I'm very excited. Yeah.
Yeah, we're happy to be part of that book.
Yeah, it's very exciting. It's really creepy when you read them all together. So we're just about to start announcing we were able to bring some people in on open call as well. We're going to start announcing those, and just in time for Halloween and candy corn, Jim.
Yeah. And it's funny because just yesterday, no joke, one of the trees in my yard just sprouted like these huge layers of bright orange fungus growing on the trunk.
Take a picture, please.
I'll look it out tomorrow and snap a picture.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Did Matthew Mercier did you have something from Matthew Mercier in that book, in your book, your spores book? No, I'll look it up.
I'm not announcing all the new things yet. So.
Okay. Sorry.
Me too.
Sorry.
No, we have lots of cool authors. So very neat. So, yeah.
And then Carol and I will also be appearing at the Barnes & Noble in Bayshore on Long Island on October 25th to talk about Where the Silent Ones Watch and discontinue If Death Ensues, and probably do some short reading. So if you're on Long Island or in the vicinity, feel free to join us there. It should be fun. It's the most horror-friendly Barnes & Noble on Long Island.
Ooh, okay. That's promising. Yeah.
And just a reminder, Galactic Terrors airs, streams, broadcasts, radiates, emanates every second Thursday of the month. So we hope you'll come back and join us then. You can please click subscribe below on YouTube to follow future Galactic Terrors transmissions. And if you really want to be in the know, be the first kid on your block to know who's coming up on the next Galactic Terrors, you can join our newsletter. We do not spam.
No, sometimes we almost forget to send it out. No, I didn't say that. No. But definitely you're not going to get more than 2 a month, so that.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to thank my fellow writers and Jim and Carol for allowing me to participate tonight. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you, Lou, for everything that you've done for Galactic Terrors all these years. It's really neat to take a little peek behind the curtain and see what the wizard is doing. So
yeah, it is. And
Great stuff.
Thank you, Lou. Thank you for everything you've done for the series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and great readings, everybody. You guys are killing me.
God,
But, my TBR pile is going to topple over and kill me, and that's just what's on my phone,
Yeah, TBRs are deadly. Yeah.
Oh yeah, mine is now spread out through several rooms in the house.
Well, I have a variety. I have my ebooks, I have my physical books, I have my Audible books, and I have a list of books that haven't been put into one of those formats yet, but I have a list. So that's like the backup TBR.
Yes, having a list is good. Yeah, otherwise, because I buy the same book more than once.
I've done that.
Oh yeah, done that. Yeah.
It must mean we really, really wanted it. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. This has been a really great evening. Thank you for
What a
joining
blast. Love this. So much fun.
Join us back here on October 28th for a special Galactic Terrors presentation. We haven't announced this officially yet, and I'll be sharing the details soon, but this is going to feature about a dozen horror writers who are going to be coming on all to talk about Where the Silent Ones Watch, William Hope Hodgson, and horror in general. And we're going to have a great discussion and some readings, and I hope you can join us for that. So watch for announcements. And we'll be back again with regular Galactic Terrors transmissions on November 14th.
Coolicious.
Yeah.
Yes, it's very exciting. And we have Jonathan Lees, Nathan Turner, and our guest is Maurice Broadus that night.
Ooh.
Cool. All right, everybody.
Great lineup.
All right.
Cool.
Great seeing you all. Great being here.
Yeah.
So much fun.
Yeah.
So much fun.
And thanks to everybody who showed up to listen and watch us. It was
By the way,
if
you're still there, I couldn't figure out how to get on the chat. So I wanted to comment. I had commented in my heart. It was in my heart. And
yes, that's fair.
That's it. It's the thought that counts.
It was the thought. I was thinking.
Yes. And thanks for everyone who's listened live and everybody who's listening on the replay as well. So
Thank you all. Have a great evening and have a great
night.
Halloween and spooky season.
And hold on for Lou's trailer video coming next.
Ooh, yes.